Hello everyone, you are welcome to SEMO Online Mathematics class. Today we are going to look at standard form. If you look at what we have on the board, it said a number is said to be in the standard form if it is rewritten as a figure between 1 and 10 and then multiplied by a power of 10 without changing its original value, i.e. 8 times 10 raised to power n. What are we trying to say here? In standard form, we are using this formula in standard form: a times 10 raised to power n, where a represents the whole number parts, 10 is constant, and n represents your power. So we are going to solve this example we have on the board. It says express the following numbers in standard form. You can see we have so many numbers we are going to express in standard form one after the other. So let's start from A. Solution: we have A. So we are going to start from the first one, which says this. So we want to present this in standard form. I'm going to write using my formula, using the formula which is what? A times 10 raised to power n, where A represents the whole number part. So in the question, where you have the whole number part is your A, and our whole number part are these numbers here, 2, 6, 3. So I'm going to write my 2, 6, 3. Then you put your decimal points. So your A represents your whole number part. You are bringing the whole of your whole number in that question and putting your decimal point. Immediately you write the first number. So your A represents your whole number part times your 10, which is what? Constant. Then for us to get our n, we are going to count the number of digits we have here without counting the last number. That gives us our power. So we have this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, without counting the last number. These are last number. So for you to get our power, you have to count the numbers you have here without you counting your last number. So when you are doing that, let's count. You see that we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So our n represents what? 8. So this is our answer. We go to the next one. The B part we have here is what? 6, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So I'm going to write using the formula, using A times 10 raised to power n. Remember I told you that A is the whole number part, and the whole number part we have here is what? 6. But this 6 is just one number, so there is not going to be a decimal point. It's only when you have more than two numbers you put your decimal point after writing your values. But now we have just one whole number, one value here, which is 6. So I'm going to write 6 as my what? A times 10, which is constant from the question. The n represents your power. So we are going to count the number of digits we have without counting the last number to give us our n, which is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have this as 6 times 10 raised to power 5. So this is our answer. Then we go to the next one, which is the C part, which is 17,000. So we are still using the same format for A times 10 to the power n, using A times 10 to the power n. A represents our whole number part. You can see this is more than one digit number, so we are going to put a decimal point after writing your 17. So we have 1.7 to represent your A times 10. You count the number of digits you have without counting your last number to give you your power. So that's as well 1, 2, 3, 4. So this raised to power 4. That is our answer. Then we go to the next one. The D part we have here is what? 3600. So we have this as using A times 10 to power n. So our A is what? 3.6 times 10 raised to power. You count 1, 2, 3. So raised to power 3. So when you are given a question on standard form, first thing you have to do is this: use the formula A times 10 to power n, where A is presenting your whole number. And for you to get this A, if your whole number is more than 1, you must put a decimal point. you bring out the whole numbers you have there and put your decimal point immediately after the first number. Your 10 is constant from the question and your n represent your power. And for you to get your n, you are counting the number of digits you have without counting the last number to give you your n. That is if those questions is starting with what? Whole number. You can see that the D part we have here, the other part we have here, E, it starts with a decimal number. So let's go now. We are going to solve the one that has to do with decimal number. When 0, 0, 0, 6, 9, 2, 7. Look at this question now. You see that this question is starting with a decimal point. So as it's starting with a decimal point, it shows that we are going to use a times 10 to the power minus n, where our power is going to have what? A minus sign. So we are going to look at example E. If you look at this example E, the question here is starting with a decimal point. Are you getting me? So now our n is going to have a negative power. So what we are going to use in solving, when you have a question like this and you're asked to solve on standard form, you are going to use a times 10 raised to the power minus n. That shows that our power is going to have a minus sign. And now what you need to know in this is that if you look at the first one we did, they are all having whole numbers, and I said your a is representing the whole numbers part and putting your decimal point. But for you to get your a here, this is still the same thing, but the only difference now is our power that will become a minus sign. So I'm going to say my a is the whole of this whole number part in that question. So my a is going to be 6.927 times 10. Then for me to get my n now, I'm going to count the number of 0, taking my decimal point to be 10. You count the number of 0 without counting the first whole number in that question. Without counting the first number in that question, you count the number of 0 you have here, the first numbers of 0 you have, using your decimal point to represent 10. So without counting the first number, without counting the whole number in the question. So now we are going to count this decimal point representing 10. So that's as what? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this week our power is going to be what? Minus 4. Then now we go to the next one, which is 0.658. 0.658. The same thing applies there. Once you have a question that is starting with a decimal point, make sure your power is going to have a negative power. So now what you are going to do, we are going to say a times 10 raised to the power minus n. Our a is the whole number part we have here, which is what? 6.58 times 10. Then for us to get our n, I remember I told you that you are counting the number of 0 you have there, using your decimal point to represent 10. But if you look at this now, you can see now that the 0 you have, there's no 0 before there's no 0 after your decimal point. You only have 0 before the decimal point. So the numbers of 0 you are counting, just like this example, numbers of 0 you are counting is in numbers of 0 before after your decimal point. These are decimal points. And also the 0 after your decimal point, you are not counting this 0 before your decimal point. You are not using this 0 here. The 0 you are using are these ones here. And once you are counting them, you are going to use your decimal point to represent 10. After counting using your decimal point to represent 10, you count the number of 0 here without counting the whole number here. So now we are going to use that explanation to do this. Now you can see that there is no 0 after our decimal point. There's no 0 after our decimal point in this example F. So now we are taking our decimal point to represent what? 10. So that is why we have this. After putting your a, which is 658, which is 6.58, times your 10, which is constant, then we use our decimal point to represent 10, which is what? This one here. So we're going to have what? Minus 1, because we have only one number. So our n is what? Minus 1. So this is our answer. 6.58 times 10 raised to power minus 1. So these are our answers.